The young doctor held up his phone, and I heard my HOA president's voice crystal clear. We need to find a reason to reject this one, too. The neighborhood's character, you understand. That's when I realized why we had been trying to sell our house for 6 months. It wasn't the market. It wasn't the price. It was the color of our qualified buyer's skin. I'm James Thompson. Served 30 years in the Marines, defended this country in 3 wars. But apparently, I couldn't defend my own right to sell my house to whoever could afford it. My wife Linda's oncologist was in Durham, 40 miles each way. The treatments were working, but the drive was killing us both. "Play it again," I said to Dr. Marcus Williams, the cardiologist who'd just offered us full asking price. Susan Mitchell's voice filled my kitchen again. The Thompsons don't know what's good for property values. That's why we have a review committee. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment if you've ever discovered the real reason something in your life wasn't working out. Susan didn't know 2 things. First, North Carolina is a one-party consent state for recordings. Second, that young doctor she rejected wasn't just any buyer. He was smart enough to hit record when he sensed something was off. What happened next didn't just get our house sold. It exposed a pattern of discrimination that had been poisoning our neighborhood for years. And it all started with my wife's exhausted voice one Tuesday morning. "James, I can't do this drive much longer. Linda and I had bought our house in Meadowbrook Estates 12 years ago, right after I got stationed at Fort Bragg. Back then, it was perfect. Good schools for when we still hoped for kids, quiet streets, and that southern charm Apex was known for. The house cost us $275,000. Every penny saved from combat pay and re-enlistment bonuses. Now, sitting across from Linda at our kitchen table, watching her push eggs around her plate, I knew we had to go. "The oncologist called yesterday," she said quietly. "He wants to increase the frequency, 3 times a week instead of 2. We'll make it work." "James, stop. I nearly fell asleep driving home Tuesday. What happens when—" "Then I'll drive you every time." She reached across and squeezed my hand. "You've been driving me every time, but honey, your retirement ceremony is in 2 months. We both know the plan was to move closer to Durham anyway." She was right. After 30 years of service, my body was telling me it was time. The knees especially. Too many jumps, too many miles humping gear. The VA disability rating would help, combined with retirement pay, but Linda's treatments were our priority. Meadowbrook had changed too. When we moved in, HOA dues were $75 a month for basic landscaping. Now, $125. And Susan Mitchell ran the board like her personal kingdom. She'd moved here 5 years ago, worked her way onto the board with promises of protecting property values, and slowly pushed out anyone who disagreed. "Remember the Washingtons?" Linda asked, like she was reading my mind. "Good people. Their daughter was at Howard." Susan complained about their cookouts every single weekend. Excess noise. Funny how the Brennans' pool parties were never a problem. The Washingtons were black, the Brennans were white. We'd both noticed but never said it out loud. Then the Patel family, that gorgeous young couple with the tech jobs, their offer fell through after the HOA review. And Robert Chen's buyer last year, the orthodontist. Also black, Linda said flatly. James, I'm too tired to fight a battle on two fronts. The cancer is enough. That afternoon, I called our realtor, Betty Hawkins. Listed for $325,000. Fair market, quick sale. In this market, James, you could get $340,000 easy. We need to move fast. Linda's health, just price it to sell. 2 weeks later, Betty called with our first offer. Full asking price, conventional loan, 60-day close. Young professional couple, pristine credit. This should be smooth sailing.
4 rejections. 4 perfectly qualified buyers turned down by our HOA's review committee. Each time Susan Mitchell had found something. Concerns about debt-to-income ratio for a software engineer making $150,000. Stability questions about a professor with tenure. Insufficient reserves for a couple with $80,000 in the bank. Betty was frustrated. James, I've been selling houses for 20 years. These excuses are nonsense. By month 6, Linda's shoulders slumped a little more each day. The drive to Durham was winning. Then Dr. Marcus Williams walked through our door. "Beautiful home, sir," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "I'm Marcus. This is my wife, Zara." Something about his bearing felt familiar. Military? Yes, sir. Navy corpsman, 8 years. Did 2 tours with the Marines in Afghanistan. Doc! I couldn't help but grin. Gunny Thompson. Where were you stationed? Camp Leatherneck, 2013 to 2014. No kidding. I was at Bastion same time. We spent 20 minutes swapping stories while Zara and Linda talked in the kitchen. Marcus was now a cardiologist at WakeMed. Zara taught elementary school. They had been married 2 years, looking to start a family. "I'll be straight with you," I told him as they prepared to leave. 4 buyers before you got rejected by our HOA. All qualified. All... I hesitated. "All black?" Marcus finished calmly. "We noticed the pattern in the listing history." "I can't prove anything." "You don't have to, Gunning. We love the house. We'll make a full-price offer and see what happens." He paused. "My mom always said, document everything. Good advice for medicine and life." Linda perked up that evening. "I like them. Did you see how Zara was looking at the spare bedrooms? They're planning ahead." "I think he's smart. He served with the Marines, knows how to handle himself." "Maybe this time will be different," Linda said hopefully. Betty called 2 days later. "Offers in. Full asking price, $325,000. 20% down. Pre-approved with Wells Fargo. James, their financials are bulletproof. I'm sending everything to the HOA today." "How long do they have to respond?" "Bylaws say 14 days." I marked my calendar. March 15th. Linda had 3 appointments scheduled that week, each one 40 miles away. Day 10 of waiting. I was checking our mailbox when Robert Chen pulled up in his Camry. "James, you got a minute?" He looked around like he was on patrol in hostile territory. "It's about your buyer." We walked to my backyard, away from the street. Robert had lived here 15 years, one of the original owners like us. "Susan's been asking questions about your buyer," he said. "Harold Brennan let slip there, reviewing carefully. Same words they used from my buyer last year. Dr. Nathaniel Brooks," I remembered, "the orthodontist. Black man like your doctor,
Offered $340,000 for my place. Perfect credit. Cash reserves. They found concerns. Robert's jaw tightened. James, I kept all the paperwork. Every rejection notice. That evening, I did what 30 years in the Marines taught me. Gather intelligence. I pulled up county records online, cross-referencing home sales with HOA rejections. Linda sat beside me, helping track the data despite her exhaustion. Here, she pointed, the Patel house, listed January 2022, sold April 2022, 3 months. But their first 2 buyers were rejected. I found the HOA minutes, quote, financial concerns, stability questions, better suited buyers available. It's always vague. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Can we talk privately? We met at the Starbucks in Cary the next morning. Marcus looked calm but serious. Gunny, my wife's cousin is a fair housing attorney. She says this pattern, he gestured at my printed records, classic violation, but patterns aren't proof, need something concrete. Like what? Like someone admitting it, on the record. He stirred his coffee thoughtfully. The review meeting is in 4 days. They'll probably ask me to appear, answer questions. Technically, it's voluntary. You thinking of recording it? North Carolina's one-party consent, legal as long as I'm part of the conversation. He met my eyes. But I need you to know, if I do this and catch something, we're going all the way. This isn't just about buying your house anymore. I thought about Linda, struggling through another treatment that morning, about the Washingtons, the Patels, all the families driven out or kept away. Document everything, Doc. That's good advice.
The call came on day 13. Susan Mitchell herself, sugar-sweet voice that didn't match her words. James, the review committee would like to meet with your potential buyer tomorrow at 2 p.m. Community Center Conference Room. It's routine due diligence. Routine? You didn't meet with the Brennan's nephew when he bought the Washington place. A pause. That was a family transaction. Different circumstances. After I hung up, I called Marcus. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. You sure about this? Already took the afternoon off. Zara wanted to come, but I think I should go alone, less threatening to them. I knew the review committee well. Susan Mitchell ran it like a tribunal. Harold Brennan, the treasurer, was a retired bank manager who always looked constipated when minorities attended HOA meetings. Dorothy Chen was the secretary, Robert's cousin by marriage, caught between family and not wanting to rock the boat. That evening, Robert stopped by with disturbing news. Dorothy's nervous. Susan's been pushing her to find problems with your buyer's application. Dorothy told me Susan actually said, we have to think about property values and who fits the neighborhood culture. Neighborhood culture, Linda repeated from the couch. We all know what that means. Dorothy won't speak up publicly. She's scared of Susan, but she's uncomfortable. I spent that night reviewing Marcus's paperwork one more time. Impeccable. Income 3 times the mortgage payment. Credit score 804. Savings account with 6 figures. If they rejected him, it would be the most blatant yet. The next morning, Marcus texted, Navy dress uniform to the hospital today. Switching to suit for meeting. Psychological warfare, Gunny. Let them see who they're dismissing.
I wanted to attend, but Susan had made it clear. Buyers only. Privacy concerns, she'd said. At 1:45, I watched from my window as Marcus parked his BMW in the community center lot. Navy blue suit, professional but not flashy. He checked his phone one more time. I knew he was testing the recording app. Linda squeezed my shoulder. This young man knows what he's doing. I hope so. Susan's rejected 4 qualified buyers already. She's getting good at this. Or getting sloppy, Linda said. Arrogance makes people careless. At 2:15, my phone buzzed. Text from Dorothy Chen. He's very professional. Susan's not happy about it. The meeting would last exactly 43 minutes. I know because Marcus documented everything.
Marcus called me at 3:47 p.m. Gunny, I'm in my car. Can you and Linda meet me at your house? You need to hear this. 20 minutes later, we sat around our kitchen table. Marcus pulled out his phone, surprisingly calm for what was about to unfold. I recorded the whole thing, legal in North Carolina. Listen to how it started. He pressed play. Susan's voice filled our kitchen. Professional, but cold. Dr. Williams, thank you for coming. We just have some concerns about your application. Marcus's recorded voice responded, I'm happy to address any concerns. My financials are all in order. It's not about money, Harold Brennan interjected. It's about fit, community stability. Could you elaborate? Marcus asked. My wife and I are both professionals. We're looking for a stable community to raise children. Susan again. Well, Meadowbrook has a certain character, established families who share similar values. We have to think about whether new residents will maintain that character. Linda gripped my hand as we listened. I served 8 years in the Navy. My values include service, honor, and community. What specific values are you concerned about? A long pause, then Harold. Look, we're just not sure you'd be happy here. Have you considered communities more suited to your situation? My situation? You know what we mean. There are lovely neighborhoods in Southeast Raleigh, more diverse, more appropriate. The recording continued for 10 more minutes, Marcus calmly presenting his qualifications, Susan and Harold dancing around their real objection, Dorothy Chen saying almost nothing, except one quiet, "These financials look very strong," that Susan immediately shut down. Then came the key moment. Marcus said, I need to understand, are you rejecting our offer? We're recommending the sellers wait for a more suitable buyer. Despite our full price offer and perfect qualifications? Perfect on paper isn't everything, Harold said. We know what's best for property values here. Marcus stopped the recording. There's more, but it gets worse. After the meeting officially ended, I lingered in the parking lot, watched them through the window, still talking. That's when I got this. He played a second recording. The audio was slightly muffled, but clear enough. Susan's voice. We need to find a reason to reject this one too. The neighborhood's character, you understand. I've worked too hard to maintain standards here. Harold, the last thing we need is this place turning into, well, you know. Dorothy, Susan, this feels wrong.
What's wrong is letting property values decline. The Thompsons don't know what's good for them. That's why we have a review committee." The recording ended. Dorothy had tears in her eyes. Anger, not sadness. 40 miles each way for chemo, because these bigots think their property values are more important than our lives. Marcus leaned forward. "Gunny, this is evidence of housing discrimination, clear violation of the Fair Housing Act. But I need to know, are you ready for this fight? It could get ugly." I thought about my 30 years defending American values, values that included equality and justice. "Doc, I've fought in 3 wars. This one's worth fighting too."
That night, I treated this like a military operation. Planning, intelligence gathering, resource allocation. The dining room table became my command center. First thing, I told Marcus over the phone, we need everything documented. Every rejection, every sale, every pattern. My wife's cousin, the attorney, she said we need a clear pattern of discrimination, not just one incident. Already started. Give me 48 hours. I threw myself into the work. Public records requests at the county office, HOA meeting minutes from the past 3 years, real estate transactions. Linda helped when she could between treatments and rest. "James," she said on day 2, "you're on to something. Look at this." She'd found the HOA approval records. In 3 years, the committee had reviewed 32 buyers, 12 rejections, every single one a minority, 20 approvals, every single one white. Robert Chen became invaluable. "I'll talk to people," he promised, quietly. Within a week, we had sworn statements. Maria Santos wrote about how Susan had strongly suggested her daughter look elsewhere when house hunting. Tom Jefferson, a black veteran who'd bought before Susan's reign, detailed the harassment he'd faced since she took over. "She tried to fine me for my American flag, said it was too large, same size as Harold Brennan's." Dorothy Chen took the biggest risk. She met me at a Panera in Morrisville, nervous but determined. "I can't live with this anymore," she said, sliding a folder across the table. Copies of emails, Susan's private communications to the board about maintaining standards and protecting our investment. She never says race directly, but the pattern's clear. "James, she's planning to run for mayor next year. Thinks HOA president is her stepping stone. This is about power for her." The most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source. Betty, our realtor, had kept meticulous records. "I've been in this business 20 years, she said, spreading out files. "Never seen anything like this. Look, average days on market for white buyers in Meadowbrook, 32. For minority buyers, never closes. They all get rejected." Robert connected us with his wife's cousin, Sheila Patterson, an attorney specializing in fair housing. "This is textbook discrimination," Sheila said, reviewing our evidence. "The recording is damning, but the pattern seals it. HUD will be very interested." "What's our next move?" I asked. "2 options. File a federal complaint, wait months for investigation, or," she smiled, "present this publicly, force immediate action. North Carolina's fair housing laws include personal liability. Susan could face fines up to $16,000 per incident." I did the math. 12 rejected buyers, potential $192,000 in personal fines. Linda, despite her exhaustion, was energized. "When's the next HOA meeting?" I said.
monthly meeting in 10 days, but Susan controls the agenda. Marcus grinned. Not if enough homeowners demand a special session. Bylaws require it if 25% of members petition. That's 50 households, Robert calculated. I can get 20 from our street alone. People are fed up. I'll get the rest, Tom Jefferson said. Veterans Network, we stick together. By week's end, we had 63 signatures. Susan had no choice but to schedule a special meeting. The agenda: review of HOA purchase approval procedures. She had no idea we were bringing evidence that would end her reign.
The special meeting was set for Thursday, 7 p.m. We had 3 days to prepare, and Susan was already playing defense. Tuesday morning, I found a violation notice on my door. Grass height exceeds 4 inches, $75 fine if not corrected within 48 hours. I measured 3.5 inches exactly. Robert got one too. Unauthorized gathering, referring to the 5 neighbors who'd met in his driveway to sign the petition. "She's panicking," Linda observed. "Good." We held our strategy meeting at Tom Jefferson's house, his garage specifically, where Susan couldn't claim we were violating any rules. "Here's how I see it," I laid out the plan. "We present facts, not emotions. Let the evidence speak." Sheila Patterson, the attorney, agreed. "I'll be there as a resident's guest, not legal counsel, but my presence will send a message." "What about the recording?" Marcus asked. "Save it for the right moment. Build the case first. Pattern evidence, statistics, testimonies. The recording is our nuclear option." Dorothy Chin had insider intelligence. "Susan's telling people you're just bitter about the house not selling. She's framing this as a personal vendetta." "Then we make it about everyone," Tom said. "Every family denied the right to live here. Every homeowner whose property sat empty because of her bigotry." We divided responsibilities. Robert would present the statistical analysis. Tom would share his harassment experiences. Maria Santos would talk about her daughter. I'd coordinate and handle Susan's inevitable interruptions. "What about security?" Linda asked. "She won't go down quietly." "Already handled," Tom smiled. 3 retired MPs from Bragg will be there, as concerned residents, of course. Wednesday night, Susan made her move. An email to all residents. "Urgent. Outside agitators threatening our community standards. Thursday's illegal meeting aims to destroy our property values. True patriots will boycott this attack on our freedoms." "Illegal meeting?" Robert laughed bitterly. "We followed her own bylaws to the letter." "Outside agitators," Tom shook his head. Classic dog whistle. But Susan had overplayed her hand. "The email pushed fence-sitters to our side. Dorothy Chin called me that night. 'I'm done being quiet,' she said. 'I have something you need.' Susan's been keeping a spreadsheet. She calls it her community standards tracker. It rates every household by, well, you'll see." Thursday afternoon, I sat with Linda as she rested after treatment. "You sure you're up for tonight?" I asked. "James Thompson, I've sat through chemo that makes me want to crawl under a rock. I can sit through one HOA meeting." She gripped my hand. "We're selling this house and moving closer to my doctors. Tonight we make sure the next family doesn't face what we faced." By 6:30, cars filled the community center parking lot. Susan had expected a boycott. Instead, we had the highest attendance in HOA history. She stood at the entrance, designer suit and frozen smile, greeting people like nothing was wrong.
James, she said sweetly, I do hope this doesn't get too unpleasant for Linda's sake. Truth's never unpleasant, I replied, just uncomfortable for those hiding from it.
The community center was packed. 187 homeowners, I counted. Susan sat at the board table, flanked by Harold Brennan and Dorothy Chin. She'd arranged nameplates and microphones like armor. This special meeting is out of order, Susan began. The proper channels motion to proceed with the special meeting as petitioned by 63 homeowners, Tom Jefferson interrupted, per Article 7 of the bylaws. Second, called Robert. All in favor, I asked, standing. A thunderous aye filled the room. Susan's face tightened. Fine, state your concerns. Robert went first, calm and methodical. In the past 3 years, our HOA has reviewed 32 purchase applications. Here are the results. 100% of white applicants approved, 0% of minority applicants approved. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Coincidence, Harold muttered. Let's examine that, Robert continued. Average income of rejected black applicants, $147,000. Average approved white applicants, $92,000. Average credit score of rejected minority applicants, 761. Approved white applicants, 694. These cherry-picked statistics, Susan stood. I have more, Maria Santos spoke up. Last year, my daughter wanted to buy here. She's a pediatrician at Duke. Susan told me, and I quote, your daughter would be happier in a more diverse neighborhood. We have a certain culture here. I said no such thing. I have the email, Maria said quietly. For 20 minutes, neighbors testified. The young Korean couple denied without explanation. The black professor told his house would impact the neighborhood's character. The Hispanic engineer rejected for financial instability despite having $200,000 in savings. Dorothy Chin finally spoke. I need to show something. Her hand shook as she connected her laptop. Susan asked me to maintain the spreadsheet. The screen filled with Susan's community standards tracker, each household rated by desirability factors. The Chens, acceptable Asians. The Jeffersons, problem family, monitor closely. The Washingtons, successfully relocated. Gasps and angry voices erupted. This is fabricated, Susan shrieked. It's on the HOA server, date-stamped, your login credentials. She turned on her. You backstabbing? I think it's time, I said to Marcus. He stood, phone in hand. I'd like to play a recording from my buyer interview with the review committee. Susan went pale. Recording without consent is illegal. Not in North Carolina, Sheila Patterson spoke up from the audience. One-party consent state. Marcus hit play. Susan's voice filled the room. We need to find a reason to reject this one, too. The neighborhood's character, you understand. Then Harold. The last thing we need is this place turning into, well, you know. The room exploded. People on their feet shouting. Tom's retired MP friends moved subtly to block the exits. Motion to remove Susan Mitchell as HOA president, someone shouted. Second. All in favor. The aye was deafening. Motion to dissolve the current review committee. Second. Another overwhelming vote. Susan grabbed the microphone. You can't do this. I'll sue every one of you. This is discrimination against me.
Actually, Sheila Patterson stood, housing discrimination carries penalties of $16,000 per incident. 12 incidents documented. You do the math. Harold was already sliding away from Susan. I was just following her lead. I'll testify to that. You spineless. Susan's mask finally shattered completely. I saved this neighborhood from becoming a ghetto. Property values would have tanked. Our values already have, Linda said quietly from beside me. Just not the kind measured in dollars.
The aftermath moved quickly, but not unrealistically. Susan stormed out threatening lawsuits, but Sheila Patterson had already prepared our next steps. "We file with HUD tomorrow," she told our group afterward. "With this evidence, they'll fast-track an investigation." Within a week, Susan received notice of the federal complaint. Harold Brennan, trying to save himself, provided a sworn statement about Susan's discriminatory practices. Dorothy Chin turned over 3 years of emails and documents. The HOA board held an emergency election. Tom Jefferson became president, Robert Chin treasurer, and Maria Santos secretary. Their first act? Eliminate the Purchase Review Committee entirely. Buyers and sellers can handle their own business, like every other free neighborhood in America. Marcus and Zara's purchase went through immediately. The day they got their keys, Marcus found me in the garage packing boxes. "Gunny, I owe you." "You owe me nothing, Doc. You did the hard part. Took the risk." "What about Susan?" "Settled out of court last week. Paid $50,000 to avoid criminal charges. Agreed to never serve on any HOA board again. She and Harold listed their houses yesterday." Marcus grinned. "Karma's beautiful sometimes." 3 weeks later, Linda and I locked up our Meadowbrook house for the last time. We'd found a small rancher in Durham, 10 minutes from her oncologist. Nothing fancy, but it had what mattered: proximity to her care and neighbors who judge people by their character, not their color. Tom Jefferson helped us load the truck. "Going to miss you two." "Visit any time," Linda said, hugging him. "The drive's not that far when you're healthy." As we pulled away, I saw Marcus and Zara in their front yard planting flowers. They waved and I honked twice, Marine Corps tradition for farewell. "Any regrets?" Linda asked, as Meadowbrook faded in the mirrors. "None. We did what needed doing." "Think it'll last, the changes?" "Tom's a good man. So are Robert and Maria. They'll keep it honest." Linda was quiet for a mile. Then, "I'm proud of you, James. 30 years of fighting overseas, and your most important battle was in your own backyard." "Our backyard," I corrected. "Couldn't have done it without you spotting those patterns." She squeezed my hand. "That young doctor, though, he took the real risk." "That's what good Marines do. See a problem, solve it, move forward." 6 months later, Tom called with an update. Meadowbrook's property values had actually increased. Turns out, welcoming qualified buyers regardless of race was good for the market. Who knew? "How's Linda?" he asked. I said, "Beating it. Day by day, beating it." Sometimes winning doesn't look like victory parades or demolished enemies. Sometimes it's just a sick woman getting the care she needs and a neighborhood remembering what America's supposed to be about. Drop a comment if you've ever fought for what's right, even when it cost you, especially when it cost you.
1 year later, I stood in our Durham kitchen, watching Linda prepare breakfast. No rush, no exhaustion. Her treatments were down to monthly maintenance. The 10-minute drive made all the difference. "Marcus called yesterday," she said, setting down coffee. "Zara's pregnant." "That's outstanding. Boy or girl?" "They're waiting to find out. But they're naming it Jordan either way, after a corpsman who saved Marcus in Afghanistan." I smiled. Marines and their corpsmen. Bonds that last forever. My phone buzzed. Email from Tom Jefferson with the subject, "You need to see this." It was a newspaper article. Former HOA president Susan Mitchell loses real estate license. The state board had reviewed her fair housing violations. She'd never sell another house in North Carolina. "Feel vindicated?" Linda asked, reading over my shoulder. "No, just right. Like things balanced out properly." "What about Harold?" "Tom says he volunteers at the community center now, trying to make amends. People can change." That afternoon, we drove back to Meadowbrook for Marcus and Zara's housewarming. The neighborhood looked the same, but felt entirely different. Kids of every color played in the streets. The community board displayed announcements in English, Spanish, and Korean. "Mr. Thompson," a young woman approached. Dr. Natasha Williams, the orthodontist who'd tried to buy Robert's house. "You came back?" "Bought the Mitchell place last month," she grinned. "Fair price, no review committee. Thanks to you." Thank Marcus. He took the risk. At the party, Dorothy Chen pulled me aside. "I never properly apologized for staying silent so long. You spoke up when it mattered. That's courage. I teach my kids now, silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Hard lesson to learn at my age." As we drove home, Linda asked, "Any regrets about the fight?" "Just one. Should have started it sooner. The Washingtons, the Patels, they deserved better." "Can't save everyone, James." "No, but you save who you can, when you can." A text came through from Betty, our former realtor. "James, thought you should know. Meadowbrook just won Most Improved Community from the State Realtors Association. Diversity cited as key factor. Your fight mattered." I showed Linda. She smiled. "Funny how treating people fairly improves everything." "Revolutionary concept," I agreed. That night, I sat on our small porch, thinking about battles won and lost. 30 years in uniform taught me about obvious enemies. But sometimes the hardest fights are against neighbors hiding behind rulebooks and property values. If you're facing your own HOA tyrant, document everything. Know your rights. Build coalitions. And remember, recording laws vary by state, but discrimination is illegal everywhere. Most importantly, don't wait for someone else to fight. Be the one who stands up. Your whole community
might be waiting for someone to go first.